Hi, Mark here. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a daily podcast completely hands-off and on autopilot. This is the fourth part in a series of videos on how to put your entire content marketing on autopilot. Check out the description for the other videos. So in the first instance, I'll take you through what the automation does and then we'll build it together. So in this example, I have the Crypto Eagle website that we've been using in the other previous videos. So this is a demo website, content that's created 100% by AI. We've posted social media using AI, all automated, and now we're going to create a daily podcast. So what our automation does is it goes and retrieves all the news in the last day. It picks up all of the news that we've posted and published on the Crypto Eagle website and grabs that for us to summarize into a podcast. So we take the posts from the RSS feed. Now, if you think about this, this could be so much more than just news from your own website. So if you didn't have a website, but you wanted to gather news from other industry websites, you could just use multiple RSS feeds. You can use a tool called rss.app, a website, rss.app, or you can use Zapier to merge together multiple RSS streams into one stream that you can just feed a URL into this module. So I've kind of shown you how to do that with Zapier in the first video in this series. So go check that out if you want to know more. But once you've done that, you know, the options are kind of endless. So this might be a private podcast that you never make public, that you're just interested in news, breaking news from a particular area. You know, in this example, crypto. Maybe it's multiple areas. Maybe you're interested in different sports and you grab RSS feeds from different sports. But this recreates this into an audio format for you, so you can listen to it on your way to work or when you're traveling somewhere, and you can daily you've got the news that you're interested in summarized. I use this podcast just to catch up on some of the news. I don't always get to read all of the posts fully. Someone else will publish the posts for me, and I just keep updated through what's been posted that day through the news just by listening to the podcast. It's really a really nice, convenient way to consume the news. So there's lots of options. In this example, we're just going to summarize the news from the Crypto Eagle website in the day, and then publish it on all of the podcast platforms. So we grab all of the articles from that day, we summarize it, and we'll cover off this module here, which is called Hugging Face. But we will summarize all of the content from that day's news. We'll format it in the way that we want it to be formatted. So we'll top and tail it with an introduction and an outro, and we'll format all of the audio in something that sounds like a podcast rather than somebody just reading the summary of a blog. We then use a module called from 11 Labs to create the podcast. So this will convert the text into a voice. We'll also go and add an image to that podcast, and then we'll publish that podcast to SoundCloud, which will then allow us to distribute it to all of the podcast platforms. So with that said, let's get started and I'll show you how to build this. So here I am in make.com, just created a new scenario. So in this first instance, we're going to need to go and grab the latest articles that have been published in the last day on our Crypto Eagle blog. So we're going to go to the RSS, we're going to do retrieve RSS feed items, and we're going to put in here the URL of our RSS feed, which is this. So if you're not familiar, RSS feeds are essentially a text document which provides links off to all of the articles on a website or all of the new pages on a website, and every website will have it. So you just need to go ahead and find where it is. So sometimes it will end RSS, sometimes it will end /feed like that. So as I mentioned, this could be not your own website, this could be any website on the internet for which you want to go ahead and retrieve the latest news. So as I said, we want to do a daily podcast, so we want to retrieve the news that's happened in the last 24 hours, so not anything earlier. So what we can do is you can use this add days function here. You can say add days. I'm going to go from now. There is a variable here you can use, which is now. So that's the date and time now. And we're going to set -1. So this is like saying, how many days do you want to add to the date from? And you can use a minus number. So we're saying from now -1 day. And in the to date, we can just go ahead and put now. So we're going to say retrieve anything between 24 hours ago to now. And the maximum number of items returned, we're going to make this 4 for now. Otherwise, we publish about 25-30 blogs a day on the Crypto Eagle website, so that's going to be a huge podcast. So for now, just for the purpose of this demo at least, we're going to make it just return a maximum of 4 articles, the latest 4 articles, essentially. Click OK. So that's our RSS feed. Let's just run that and hopefully that will work as we expect. Go in here and we can see there's 4 bundles with the links to the latest 4 articles on the Crypto Eagle website, which is exactly what we're looking for. So just to be clear as well, when this is a daily podcast, we're going to schedule this to run once a day. So we're on this every day, and we can specify a time of day that we want that to run. So we can say, what happened there? So every day, we can say we want it to run 8 p.m. every day. So that will just go ahead and grab the latest articles in the last 24 hours at 8 o'clock every single day. And you can specify just specific days of the week. So if you only wanted to do weekdays, you can go ahead and just do weekdays as well and not do the weekends, for example. So a bit of flexibility there. Next, we want to go ahead and add a module which is going to strip out essentially the HTML from each of the articles. So we're going to use this variable, which is this module, which has got a function here called set variable, and we're going to call this content. So in here we're going to use a function called strip HTML, which is just going to remove all of the HTML from the articles that we're pulling. So let's go to strip HTML and go to grab this description here. Click OK. So if we take a look at this, the reason we're doing this is because if we take a look at the data here, description, we've got the article content here, but it's just got all of the HTML and things in there as well. So we just want to get that removed. So if I run that through, now go ahead and look at the output, and this is the article here without any of the HTML. It's all nice and clean and ready for us to pass into Hugging Face, which is the next module that we're going to add. So here, search for Hugging Face, and in here we're going to do create a summary, which summarizes longer text into shorter text. So Hugging Face, just to give you an understanding of what that is, it's a community of AI builders. So people go ahead and build AI models that do a number of different things. So you can see here text to image, text to video, lots and lots of different things. So the one that we're going to be using is a model that's been developed by Facebook, which is called the BART Large CNN. So the BART model was pre-trained on the English language and fine-tuned on CNN Daily Mail. So basically Facebook have created this model to summarize long text into shorter text. So for this we could just easily use ChatGPT-4 to summarize an article, and generally that would be probably pretty fine. But these models have been really fine-tuned and trained on a whole lot of data and a whole lot of text to do a really good job at summarizing long text. So we're going to use this for our summary. So in here it's actually specified that this is an example here. It's a very common one that's used. So we're going to say Facebook, the BART Large CNN here, and the input is going to be this content that we have sent out. So we're going to have a nice summarized content for each of our articles. So let's just run that through. That's failed. Let's see what that's failed. Okay, so this takes me on to error handling in a minute. It's not particularly reliable, Hugging Face, all the time, so it doesn't always work first time. It's worked again there. Error handling I normally leave out of videos, but I will add this in for this one because it is particularly unreliable using Hugging Face. Now, we was kind of unlucky that actually happened that time, because it's not that unreliable, but it's unreliable enough that it's good to add some error handling in. And you want to do this to any time you call an external service anyway, in case an API is down. I generally don't show it in videos because error handling's boring and just takes up lots of extra time and space and doesn't really get the essence of the automation across, but I'll show it in this one. So you can add a break in, and essentially what a break does is it will pause for a little period of time if it fails and then try again, and it'll keep trying until a number of times you try and then it will fail. So you can say, Okay, I want to try it 5 times, and I want to try it 12 minutes apart, so that's like over an hour. I'm going to try it 5 more times, and if it fails, then so be it. So I'm going to add this here, and that essentially will, if it fails, it'll wait 12 minutes and then it'll try again. You can make this interval as much as you like. You can try it a minute later if you wanted to, but just as an example, that's what I'll do there in terms of error handling, particularly in Hugging Face. But anytime you call an external service, as I say, it's a good idea to go ahead and do that. So let's take a look at the summarized text that Hugging Face has created for us here for each of our articles. So you can see this is the summarized text for the first one. A recent Harris poll funded by Grayscale reveals that digital assets are gaining importance among US voters, blah blah blah, etc. So you can see this is a reduced down version of the articles that we sent it, which was the entire blogs. So that's looking good. That's what we want to do. But now, when we create the podcast, we need all of these summaries in one long piece of text, because we want our text to audio transformation to include all of the text in one go. So we're going to use something called a text aggregator. That's in tools here. Text aggregator. The source module as the RSS. Now we also want to click this show advanced settings option here. In here we want to specify this as a new row separator. So how do we want when we aggregate this text together, how do we want it to be shown that it's separate? So you can say, I want it to be a tab. I can specify another. So often you'd have comma delimited files, but in here we just want to have a new row. So that's how it's going to aggregate our text together. Group by we can just leave blank. And stop processing after an empty aggregation is yes. We don't want, if there's no content there, we don't want to continue with the automation after that. So stop processing that there is fine. So here we're going to want to add the title of the news story. So the title of the news story here is from the RSS feed here. So we're just taking the blog title in this example, and then we also want to add in the summary text. So now we've got the title and the summary text underneath. So let's click OK, and let's see if that works. It doesn't. Let's try. Yes. So if you have a break-in, you need to enable something in the scenario settings here, which is allow storing of incomplete executions. You want to probably add this anyway, because anytime your execution fails, then you want to be able to go ahead and run that at a later date. So generally I'll turn this on for all my automations. You click OK, and that should be good to go now. That's fine. So run that through, creating our summaries. Go in here and we should see our aggregated text. So you can see the input was all of the summaries here, and then the output is one summary. So we've got the title, and then we've got the article itself underneath. So that's the title and then the article. That's looking great. What we'll find though, and what else we need to add in here, is something a little extra, which is going to be hard to show you without having audio enabled. However, what tends to happen is when you are transforming this into audio, you don't get any kind of natural pauses that you'd want to have in there. So if somebody was reading out the news and they were reading the title, the news headline, they would then take a breath and a pause and then tell you the story. Well, this kind of spits it all in one go, and it just doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound human. It sounds like it's just, you can't tell where the title was beginning and ending and where the summary text is. So you just need the title to be read out, a little pause, and then for the summary text. So we're going to be using a tool called 11 Labs to transform our text into audio, into speech. I'll show you that in a little bit more detail in a moment. However, what you can do when you're doing this transformation is that you can specify where you want specific spaces and gaps in the audio. So the way that you do that is that you add in this break time. So break time of 1 second. So I'm going to add a break time of 1 second underneath the title and before we start talking about detail itself. And also I'm going to add in here 1.5 seconds after each story. So again, if we don't add that in, they'll end, the translation will end one story and then immediately start the title of the next story. And again, it just doesn't flow very well. So you just want that little bit of pause so that you know that a new story is starting, and we have that little gap in there, and that's just enough there, I find. So 1 second and 1.5 seconds. So once we've done that, we want to then go and add an intro and an outro. So we don't want to just launch straight into creating the stories. We want to add an outro and an intro. So I'm going to set a variable here. Set this variable, and this is going to be called a podcast script. So this will be the full script. And the variable, I'm going to go and paste this in so that you can see what I've added here. At the start of the podcast, I've added a little bit of break time, again, because it just very quickly launches into the podcast. And it's just to have a nice, after somebody's pressed the play button, there'll be a short, brief pause before the podcast starts. And then I have this intro. Today is, and it gives you today's date. So, and it specifies, I specify it in the format that I want it. So it'll say, today is the 30th of September, 2024. Here are today's headlines. And then you have a little bit of break again before we go into the actual meat of the podcast, which is the text that we've just summarized and aggregated together. So now we have the intro, we have the meat of the podcast, which is all the news. And then I have an outro, which is thanks for listening. We'll be back again tomorrow. Have a great day. And that's that. So that's now the entire script. Let's run this through so that we can see that. So this is the entire script that we're going to feed into 11 Labs so that we can translate it to audio and then get it published out onto podcast platforms. So if you look here, the podcast script. Today is the 30th of September 2024. Here are today's headlines. And then the first headline, voters demand presidential candidates with cryptocurrency expertise, poll finds. And then again, a recent poll, Harris poll funded by Grayscale reveals that digital assets are gaining importance, etc. And then we've got those gaps in between as we wanted. Thanks for listening. We'll be back again tomorrow. Have a great day. So that's perfect. That's the script that we wanted to create. So now we're going to use the 11 Labs module to create that podcast. So let's go to 11 Labs, create a speech synthesis. So you're going to have to create and connect up a 11 Labs account if you don't already have one. Now here you can specify a bunch of pre-made voices, or you can create your own voices as well. So in here, this is in the 11 Labs login area. You can go, there's a whole bunch of voices that you can go and select from. So you can press play and find them out. Actually has on the right hand side where it actually sounds good. So this one's good for narration, social media. I actually picked this before they had these categories, or at least they were so easy to find, or so easily surfaced. And actually I picked one for news, which was good. So I've picked Alice to read my podcasts. There are other news ones as well. There's Paul here, there's Sarah. So you can try out all of these different voices and see which ones you like, or you can train your own voices. So I've trained this one, Mark Mars, and essentially you just upload some recordings of your voice and it creates a synthesis of your voice, which is quite freaky because you can get it to say all things in your voice that you've not said before, but it sounds like you. Now what I did find though was, and I probably need to do a little bit more training on the voice, but it just didn't sound as good. It sounded a little bit more AI-like than some of the ones that are provided. I'm sure with time you could probably get it to work better if you did want it in your own voice. But in this case, I just used Alice as my voice example. So I'm going to go ahead and use Alice again here. So the model we're going to use is 11 Turbo V2. And the text we want to add in there is the podcast script. Now, you can change the stability and the boost. It tells you what those things are here. So decreasing stability can make speech more expressive with output varying between regenerations. It can also lead to instabilities. And then similarity boost, low values are recommended if background artifacts are present in generated speech. High enhancement boosts overall voice clarity and target speaker similarity. So you can go ahead and play with this in 11 Labs. So you can actually try this out, the stability and the similarity boost kind of options here. So if you just go here and you click use, for example, you get this pane come up on the right hand side here, and you've got the similarity that you can kind of go and mess with here. So you've got similarity and the stability. So you can try these out, tweak it a little bit until you get what you like, what you think sounds good, and then you can feed those numbers directly into your scenario here if you'd like to. But I'm going to just leave them blank for now, and I'm going to click OK. So now this will create our podcast. So let's just go ahead and run that through, and I'll show you where that pops up. Okay, so now the speech is being created in 11 Labs. It's done. So when we look in here, we can see the data. Obviously it's just audio, so you can't see the data, you can only hear the data. But if we go over to 11 Labs and I'll refresh this page, you can see that this was created 34 seconds ago. So I can go in there, I can see what was created, and I can go ahead and download that file if I like. But we want to do this in an automated way, right? We don't want to go ahead and download this audio and then upload it into...
Today is the 30th of September 2024. Here are today's headlines.
So I don't know if you could hear that on the stream. That'd be good if you could hear that on the video. But essentially, that's me just playing the video there. I want to do this in an automated way. So next, we want to go ahead and add some artwork to our podcast. So when we have our podcast, we have some artwork that we want to include on each of the episodes. So we can make that a different piece of artwork for each episode, or just one that you use over every single episode. So I'm just going to go and grab that artwork. So I store the artwork on the WordPress site where the blog is hosted. You could store this anywhere. So if I do get a file, I'll go and grab that URL. So this is the URL of the Crypto Ego podcast cover. Go and grab that. And then finally, we're going to go and upload the article with the artwork to SoundCloud. So I do upload a track here. And here we want to go ahead and map some variables here, because otherwise you get strange file name added, which is like 11 labs, blah, blah, blah. You don't really want that. And the title of the podcast is something that's quite important, because you want people to understand what it's about. So if I go back again to the podcast on Spotify, you can see that the latest podcast was named Crypto Eagle Daily, the 27th of September 2024. That kind of makes sense. Previous one, 25th, 24th, 23rd. So that's how we the naming convention that we want to use in this example. So I'm just going to go copy something else. You just use that very easily. So Crypto Eagle Daily, and then we're going to format the date in the format that we want it, so that it gets displayed nicely on when it's published to the podcast platforms. Here we want to add the data, which is fine. And then last but not least, we want to add the artwork data here. So we can add that in there, which is the artwork, and then we can click OK. So now that should be the full process. The reason I've used SoundCloud here is because it's got an official module within Make. I'm not sure if there's any more at this present time. I think it was the only one that was using it. But once you're into SoundCloud, you can just go into that settings, into content, and this is your RSS feed. And then you submit that RSS feed to Spotify, to Apple Music, and anywhere else that you want it to appear. So you get the RSS feed, and you can kind of just go and add that. And you just need to check this option here, include in RSS feed. So this is part of the upload default. So when we upload in an automated way the new podcast, it automatically gets added to the RSS feed, and straight away we don't have to go and do that kind of as a manual step. And here's all the tracks so far that have been uploaded to SoundCloud. With that done, this should go ahead now and summarize the last 24 hours news, get the last 4 posts, summarize it, and then upload it as another podcast into SoundCloud. So let's give that a go, see if that works. So we should have a new track here when we look in a minute. We're summarizing our blog post for the day. We're going to aggregate them all together with a text aggregator. It's been transformed to audio. Go and get the artwork, and then we're going to upload it all to SoundCloud. That's great. So if I go ahead and refresh this now, we should have a new podcast. And here it is, 17 seconds ago, the new podcast has been uploaded. I'm going to delete that because I don't really actually want that one on there for now. It's just for an example. But there you go. That's an end-to-end on how you create a daily podcast 100% on autopilot every day. So you can set this now to schedule and to run every single day at 8 o'clock, and it'll go and get the last 24 hours news, summarize it, aggregate it together, create the speech for it, and then upload it into SoundCloud. And you never have to touch it ever again. So that's the end of this video. I hope you found it interesting. If you're interested in more automations like this, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also check out our school community where you can go and download these automations, but also where we have a whole load of other content you can go and enjoy and be part of our ever-growing community. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.